Welcome back to the NWR Virtual Healthcare Conference. Next presentation today is from Greg Brown, the CEO of CurveBeam AI. CurveBeam AI develops, manufactures and sells specialised medical imaging scanners coupled with AI SaaS-based clinical assessment solutions to support medical practitioners in the management of musculoskeletal conditions. The company's flagship CT scanner, the HiRise, performs weight-bearing CT scans as well as traditional non-weight-bearing CT scans and provides a range of advantages over traditional CT or MRI devices, which Greg will elaborate on shortly. Just a reminder to ask questions, please feel free to type them in using the Q&A panel within Zoom, but I'll now hand it over to Greg.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for this opportunity to present today. I'd like to bring to the attention of participants the disclaimer. CurveBeam AI, we're a medical device company and we're focused on commercialising weight-bearing CT. So this technology is very similar to the technology in the dental office, where you might be having an image taken of your mouth for a dental implant. But we're delivering this technology now into a hospital and a group surgeon setting that allows them to have this first-to-market device that gives them full hip-to-foot bilateral weight-bearing scans. Now, why is that so important? Well, for the improvement of diagnosing a condition and planning the surgery to have a well-balanced skeleton post that surgery, this weight-bearing offers huge advantages, not only in that diagnosis, but also that surgical planning. We're first to market with this weight-bearing CT, which is hip to foot, and we're also first to market with some of the AI solutions that we can deliver. And here is an example of some bone segmentation and separation that we can offer automatically in the foot with automatic anatomical measurements to help in the diagnosis or clinical assessment of those conditions. So at this first to market, both in the platform and in the AI. Now, AI is subject to regulatory clearance, but our device is fully cleared by FDA, CE, and TGA, which is the Therapeutic Goods Administration. This instrument market opportunity is very large. It's a $10 billion instrument market and about a $2.7 billion annual annuity opportunity for this platform. Last year, we did an $11.5 million revenue, and we have, as I said, we have our regulatory clearances in place. We have a favourable business model with really an instrument business model followed by a SaaS-based annuity, which is high margin. And we have a global distribution network in place. We have around 170 scanners globally. That includes our Generation 1 and 2 devices, and it also includes some major institutions that are utilising our weight-bearing CT. We also have a top-tier US distributor in the form of Stryker Corporation and their foot and ankle division. So when you think about weight-bearing CT, it's quite intuitive. You can have a pain in the knee, you can have a pain in the hip or the ankle. But if you go to get a CT and you're lying down and there's no weight on that joint, well, if you notice the non-weight-bearing scan here, the joint can look relatively healthy. So, you've got good distance between the bones. The alignment looks okay, but as soon as you look at it underweight, it's a different clinical picture. And what you're seeing here is that, okay, look, this is osteoarthritis. There is the impingement point where the bone-on-bone contact is, and that the whole joint's alignment is now being pushed out. And so what's important here is that diagnostically, it now allows the surgeon to see exactly what's going on in the joint so that they're better able to diagnose the condition, but more importantly, better able to plan that surgery to keep a well-balanced skeleton post the surgery by getting the alignments and the heights right, and pulling that joint back into a functional solution that gives effective movement for the patient. So what's our differentiators? It's really this ability to better improve diagnosis, but also workflow, because by offering this in a group setting, it's one visit, one scan, they can diagnose their condition, upload their surgical guides, and they can also do it both in weight bearing and non-weight bearing. And here, in this visual here, you'll see this is in the weight bearing mode, but we can also offer non-weight bearing so that you can do the comparison between the two when you've got more difficult cases to assess. Note that there's a 30% less radiation involved with the CurveBeam CT, and our deep learning AI solutions really target the ability to better assess that patient's condition so that the full surgical plan can bring into play not only the bone alignment for the surgical planning, but also the quality of the bone, so that they can make the right decisions around that total joint replacement. So here today, the key advantage is that high rise in a group surgeon setting, and we're starting to see the imaging move towards the group surgeon settings, because during COVID, of course, orthopedics and total joint replacement was considered elective, and surgeons didn't like not being able to move forward with their surgeries. So this has helped to really accelerate this adoption into the group surgeon settings. And where our product offers an enormous advantage to a group surgeon is that from a workflow perspective, it's one patient visit, one scan. They can diagnose and then upload their surgical guides for doing that surgery. Now, today, that's quite a pain point. That patient will come in. Most group surgeon settings in the US will have some form of diagnostic radiology available, X-ray mainly. And then for the cut guides and for better diagnosing certain conditions, they need a CT. So they've got to refer that patient out. They'll have a supine or lying down, non-weight bearing CT, and then they wait for that patient to come back. Now, at that point, they can then, diagnose and then look at their surgical cut guides and then upload them. With the high rise, we're really able to offer this all in one patient visit, and then an immediate upload or a very quick upload of their surgical guides ready for surgery. Now, another pain point is that if you're having a total joint replacement, following the medical guidelines, some of the clinical decisions on the type of implant to be used, whether you cement or non-cement, requires an assessment of bone quality. And today, while that is a requirement for most patients, because it's seen as the single biggest risk factor is poor bone quality in total joint replacement, only about 15% of patients are getting a BMD. And we can now offer this through AI solutions, a BMD result in that surgeon setting, so that he can also incorporate that requirement of assessing the bone quality to plan his surgery. And this is where we can bring AI to bear to deliver a SaaS model that improves that surgical planning, so that the number one risk factor for an implant failing is this bone quality issue. And so now we're making it part of the surgical plan, and it also delivers a revenue opportunity to the surgeons. And that's a key point to all of this. Not only is it that workflow benefit of one visit and then complete planning of the surgery, but it also now introduces two forms of revenue to the doctor as well. They get to bill both the diagnostic radiology and the BMD for that patient in their group surgeon setting. So this large market opportunity, we really do focus on the orthopedic surgeon office. At present, we have a significant position in the hospital-based market, and within that position, we have a lot of key top-tier medical institutions utilizing our weight-bearing CT technology. For instance, all three Mayo clinics, NYU, UCLA, Harvard, Penn, HSS in New York. So they're all utilizing within that hospital base. We've got a nice footprint building in the hospital base, but where we see most of our growth is in this $3.6 billion orthopedic group surgeon practice. And that's what we're very focused on in delivering. So we have this $10 billion market in instruments. And a lot of this is going to be driven for us through that orthopedic surgeon practice and hospital base. Now, here in Australia, we work much closer with imaging chains because here that's the only place that you can get the reimbursement is through radiology. So in the Australian market, much more aligned in the imaging chains, but in the US and Europe, rest of the world, we're really focused on the hospital and group surgeon settings. So we have two business models that we're offering. The first is the high rise in the surgeon's office or in the hospital. We have our Stryker relationship where they sell a high rise for around $410,000 US, or 630,000 Australian. CurveBeam AI then transfers to Stryker that device and bills Stryker directly, and we work at about a 50% gross profit. Now, for the surgeon, they would then bill this as diagnostic radiology of the lower extremity under the national coverage determination from Medicare, which is under a code 73700, and it's on an average about a $240 payment. It can be as low as $160 with Medicare, but as high as $295 with the privates, on average a $240 payment. And around 3 scans a day can, build a break-even position for them for buying the device. But for each placement, this first business model is a one-off, but for ongoing revenue, we're targeting the bone mineral density, which is a high-value diagnostic that the surgeon can use in planning their surgery, and that we're going to be targeting around 5 to 15 BMD reports per day per device. Now, on what basis are we targeting that? Well, today, if you look at the number of patients that go through a single surgeon office, and that's not our target, but we have devices in single surgery as well. They can see between 1 to 50 patients a day. In our target, which is 2 surgeons or greater, the 2 to 3, 3 to 5, and greater than 6, the average number of patients in those settings is around 100 patients a day. So working on 50 of those patients being needed to be diagnosed, you start to see that this is a significant opportunity, not only in the initial diagnostic radiology, but also on the BMD. If 50% of those patients are there for a total joint replacement, then 5 to 15 BMDs is quite conservative when we look at the type of SaaS business model we can build off each placement. Now, the BMD is also billed at around 140. We target the BMD CT code under a national coverage determination of 150.3. And here at 140 US dollars being paid to the surgeon under the reimbursement of that coding, we charge $90 for a fully automated report. So today, if they want a BMD, instead of having to refer out to a second imaging center and having up to a month waiting list, they can have this as a real-time result. We do all the processing in the cloud, they get the BMD report, and then they can bill $150 for that. So they make an additional $50 per patient for that BMD. So we're really trying to target on a single placement, around, at 10 BMDs, it would be around a $350,000 annuity. So for every 100 devices, it builds a $35 million annuity for us. And that's a high profit margin. We're looking at 90% plus gross profit. So strategically, every device we place becomes very important, not only for driving our business model for the instrument, but also the annuity stream with that BMD SaaS. So how do we build that strategic placement in the market? Well, today we have our global operations headquartered out of Pennsylvania in Hatfield. We have reps and our marketing team based there. And the partner management for Stryker is also managed out of North America. Now, Stryker has 500 reps, 40 regional specialists, and we manage through our teams, we work with Stryker in helping to identify prospects in the US market. We have around 132 placements already with weight-bearing CT from our generation 1 right through to high rise. We have 132 placements now in North America. Europe, we're working through distribution models. We also now have a direct capability in Germany, and all other parts of the globe, we are working through distributors. In Australia, we have also now got a direct sales capability, and we have 6 placements here in Australia as well. The core driver for that strategic placement, though, is really our US partnership with the foot and ankle division of Stryker. Each high rise, and it's important to note that the reimbursement for the BMD exists in the US market alone at this point. We'll be building reimbursement for that in other markets, but today the BMD reimbursement in this area is really only in the US, and it's really for the knee and hip surgeries. That's what's under guideline. And so every strategic placement we can build in the US becomes very important for driving that annuity model. So Stryker is, a very large orthopedics player. They are by far the largest in orthopedics. Our relationship really built with the foot and ankle division through the guided system for their total ankle replacement. And that's through Stryker Prophecy. And we have the high rise that is capable of being in an office. They can do the diagnosis of the foot and ankle condition, directly upload their data set from the high rise into their Prophecy, ready for surgery. Huge workflow advantage by having this device for them. Now, Stryker also has robotic systems that are very successful in knee and hip, and they too, become a big part of the process in being able to address the requirements of these accounts, because beyond foot and ankle, knee and hip would be 70 to 80% utilization on one of these devices. And we are presently working to validate our high rise for the robotic systems and the non-robotic surgical guidance systems for the US market with the high rise. Now, this relationship with the 500 reps, 40 regional specialists, we have very good visibility from the sales side. Stryker also brings financing solutions that are very attractive in helping us to place these devices in a group surgeon setting. So this BMD, why is this important? Well, we're doing that, the surgeon, that one visit, one scan, the surgeon can diagnose the condition, plan the surgery, the workflow advantage. But now, if they want to follow the guideline, especially for knee and hip, and they need to look at bone quality for making the assessment of, do they cement the joint? What type of implant do they use for that patient based on bone quality? Then this is where today they've got to send out again that patient to another site to get a BMD. And those waiting lists can be as high as a month, sometimes 2 months, before they see that patient again. So even though it's indicated, less than 15% in the US today get that BMD. So this platform opens up an opportunity in that group surgeon setting where they will now be able to bill or run a BMD. We'll have all of this, all the manual steps that are done with a DEXA machine. The BMD CT will be able to have all of that image processing in the cloud and then a report sent down to them under a SaaS model. Now that then gives them real-time assessment of that patient so that they can look at the bone quality and assess their surgical plan. Now, where there's low bone density, but still not osteoporosis, then we can also offer a high-value microstructural assessment tool as part of this to help them triage those patients that still have a significant bone quality issue that may not yet have brought their bone density down to a level that they're at osteoporosis. But it gives a lot of very useful clinical information to the surgeon in planning that surgery while keeping his workflow advantage and giving him the ability of 2 billings off that one scan. Our next generation platform really looks to build that relationship beyond just the lower extremity. We're first to market on hip to foot. We have a next generation technology. This is not just a high rise extended. This is a totally new generation of imaging. It'll be dual imaging capability that gives soft and hard tissue, and it will be whole body weight-bearing CT to open up the shoulder and the spine. Now, today in total joint replacement, knee is by far the largest market, but 3 times the size of knee is spine. So opening up spine, opening up shoulder. Shoulder is not far behind knee in volume. This really does expand without sabotaging our lower extremity market. And for the upper body, the soft and hard tissue relationships are very important for diagnosis and surgical planning, so why this is a next generation platform. So in summary, we have a first to market opportunity. We are focused on commercializing weight-bearing CT globally. We are addressing an underserved need with a first to market bilateral weight-bearing CT, and we are delivering high-value diagnostics or clinical assessment tools to improve diagnostics, all subject to regulatory clearance still, but it's this overlay of AI and deep learning AI solutions that really give us this first to market position. We have a large market opportunity just in the instrument alone at 10 billion. Our regulatory is in place other than our AI-aided diagnostics. That is due for submission. And we have a favorable revenue model that has both an instrument sale and an annuity stream with high margin associated with it. We have global distribution with a top tier distributor with us in the US with Stryker Foot and Ankle. And we have a lot of key institutions already utilizing our technology. We have about 170 placements globally today when you look at generation 1 and 2 as well. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. I draw your attention to the investment risks around medical device, and I'd like to open it up to questions.
Thanks, Greg. As you mentioned there, if anyone has a question in the audience, please feel free to type it in within Zoom and we'll get to it shortly. Greg, the first question I have is, how many of your weight-bearing CT devices are there in Australia, and is weight-bearing CT scan reimbursed here in Australia?
We're a little bit unique in Australia, Matt. First of all, the first part of the question, we have 6 of our devices, weight-bearing devices in Australia. 3 for the lower extremity, 2 in New South Wales, 1 in Victoria. And then for foot and ankle, we have another 3, 1 in Queensland, 1 in Adelaide, and a foot and ankle also in Victoria. So 6 placements in Australia today, first part of the question. Second part of the question, are we reimbursed? Well, here in Australia, the surgeon cannot bill for this. So you have to work through the imaging centres or chains. We have built a relationship at the moment with Lumos here in Australia. They have 2 devices, 1 in Sydney, 1 in Victoria. A radiologist is the only one able to bill for this scan here. And yes, we are reimbursed at around 210 Australian dollars for a weight-bearing CT scan. So reimbursement exists here as well, but it's for the radiologist, and why we work closely with the imaging chains for developing weight-bearing CT and the improvements it can deliver in orthopedics.
And in terms of the bone mineral density annuity stream, what gives you confidence that surgeons would utilize a SaaS-based business model such as this, and how does the surgeon do they get any benefit from it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. BMD, look, 90% of the people who are presenting to their orthopedic surgeon have pain and looking for restoration of function. 10% would be fractures. But of those 90%, a lot of them will have osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. Of those 90%, 60% will have an undiagnosed, untreated bone fragility. The number one risk for a failed implant, where it comes loose or comes out, or there's a periprosthetic fracture due to the implant, is often related to that bone quality. So to come back to your question, why would a doctor use it? Well, today, if you look at the Academy of American Orthopedic Surgeons, their cementing decisions, their implant decisions, bone quality is an important part of that, and it's in the guidelines. So while they're in the guidelines, often it's not followed for the BMD presently because of the delays that are associated with it. Now that we can offer it all in that one visit, one scan, I think the workflow benefit is there for the doctor to be able to do this and be in line with his guidelines. And at the same time, he makes a revenue benefit out of it where he's getting an extra $50 per patient that he offers that. So to that second part of the question, I think the big driver here is it enables them to follow their guideline, but it also delivers them an extra $50 on top of the $240 they got for the scan, for the diagnostic radiology. But it's all that one visit, one scan, multiple reimbursements, and a much more extensive clinical plan so that they're in line with their guidelines. So several advantages there for a surgeon that I think will help create that pull effect when we can get our FDA clearance with the BMD and offer that on an installed device in a group surgeon setting. And it's important to note that the reimbursement is only in that group surgeon setting.
Yeah, and correct to say the surgeon will make money from the BMD scan as well.
Correct, because they'll be billing that at 140 average, and we'll be charging 90 on the SaaS, so they'll be making $50 on the difference.
Next item is obviously you have AI in the name, and artificial intelligence is something that's been very topical lately and a fair bit of hype around it. Is the use of AI in your brand designed to leverage this, or is it something that was already sort of driven by your technology?
I've had that question twice before. It seems like, because AI is the hot topic with investors, that's why we threw it into our brand. But if you go back and you look at our patents, you go back and you look at our clinical studies from 2014 onwards, we've been working with deep learning AI and AI solutions since 2014. So the patents were filed, they've got their filing dates, the papers were published, they have their filing dates. So no, AI has been a big part of this journey, Matt, and marrying the vertical integration of the imaging platform with the AI gives us huge advantages as well, especially with deep learning AI, because we control for a lot of the errors that can occur from image to image differences from manufacturers. We control that vertical. So it really gives us the perfect platform to deliver very good deep learning AI solutions. And they've got a great example in bone foot segmentation, BMD, quantitation of microstructure, and all of these date back 10 years. So no, we didn't throw it in the title to try and leverage interest. No, it's been very much part of our life.
A couple of questions that have come through with regards to regulatory clearance on the AI components. Is there anything you can speak to in terms of a timeline around that?
Yeah, look, the BMD, we've looking to file now at the end of this calendar year, and that's for the new high-rise. And we are still on our timeline for clearance by mid next year. So that's the real key driver. That's the only one that has revenue behind it, that has reimbursement behind it, I should say, that will really drive our revenue. And that's the one we're acutely focused on getting into the market as soon as possible. And we're looking at July next year.
And just one final one before we need to wrap up. The maker validation, has been named as a hurdle in closing accounts for high-rise and getting more placements out there. What's your timeline on delivering this? And can you just give a bit of colour around that?
So robotic systems and the need to be able to do custom cut guides, just like we do for the Prophecy for foot and ankle with Striker. There's a range of robotic systems in knee and hip, and that's by far the biggest part of the market. And when you look at the number of surgeries that are done there, this is a very important requirement. And no group practice wants to have multiple devices trying to service each of the different members within a practice. They all want one platform to do all of their workflow benefits and revenue benefits off one platform. So this is an important requirement, and we are now working to validate. And Mako is a robotic system. That's the one owned by Striker. It's a very, very successful system, and you know they have really a dominant position in that robotic system. And we are now working with them to validate the high rise for the custom cut guides for knee and hip. What we told the market in January was that we would have the stationary model validation. We were looking to have that completed by the end of March. We remain on that timeline. We will then be looking to upgrade sites in April to the high rise with the validated Mako capability. And those sites would start utilising that in routine processing of their knee surgeries in Q4. So we remain on those timelines.
Thanks, Greg. Conscious there's a few other questions that have come through. For those people, we'll pass those across and get back to you separately. But we've just run out of time for now. But Greg, thanks for your presentation. Thanks to everyone who joined for your interest.
Thanks, everybody.